Medical Law, and it's a boutique, I suppose, specialist law firm in medical negligence, and I'm based in Cork. But I represent families and individuals across Ireland who've been affected by negligent medical treatment. And I suppose what I do in basic terms is help people get answers. Most people come to me after a very difficult experience and they just want to understand what happened and whether it could have been prevented and what their options are. And I suppose what makes me slightly different is I work on my own, and because it's a small specialist firm, all the clients deal with me directly from the very start until the end of their case. In order to bring a medical negligence claim, you have to be able to prove two things. One, that you received substandard care from a healthcare professional, and two, that that substandard care caused you an injury. So there's often a misconception that if you've had a bad outcome from a surgery or a bad outcome from attending a hospital, that it's automatically a claim. And unfortunately, that isn't always the case. And because medicine is such a complex area, errors can happen even though everyone is doing their best and there hasn't actually been substandard care as such. And then often mistakes can happen, but someone hasn't suffered an injury as a result of it, thankfully. So that wouldn't be a case. So a medical negligence claim has to have those two elements, that there was substandard care and it caused an injury. So every week is really different. So like you said, I'm based in Cork. So some week that is exactly what's happening. I'm based in my office in Cork and I'm doing a lot of meetings remotely. I'm speaking with barristers, experts, new and established clients. And then other weeks I'm traveling to, I suppose it can be any county in Ireland really, for hearings, for mediations, for inquests. And I think that's what I really enjoy, is that every week is different, every case is different, every client is different, and every week is different. Probably wasn't one big moment as such. It probably gradually built over time. So I've always worked in the area of medical negligence. It's what I went into straight out of college, and I didn't really do anything else. So I didn't have experience of any other area. I always knew it was what I wanted to do. So the longer I was working in that area and working with the firms I was working with, started to kind of think what kind of practice I would create if I had that opportunity open to me. Yeah, it just was something that was niggling away at me for a while and something I was thinking about, and I finally took the plunge and I wanted to create something different. I thought there was an opening for a specialist medical law firm, but also one that was quite small and could offer a very personal and compassionate approach. So that was what I set out to do, and it was definitely a leap of faith. And I have days where I question whether it was the right move for me, but I'm really glad I did it overall. I'm really glad of the service I provide and of the relationships I've built with my clients. No, it definitely was not the plan. So I didn't have anyone in my family who was a solicitor, who was involved in law. So it wasn't anything I'd really thought about. And there was no other career that was in mind as such. I think I gave a little bit of thought to teaching at one point, but nothing that really stood out. So I found it quite difficult when I was in sixth year and it came to picking a degree or what I would go down, what path I would go down. So I knew I wanted a career where I would help people, and I enjoyed reading, writing, and I was good at languages. So that's what led me to choosing law and French. And I really liked French and I was good at that language. So I chose the two of them because I didn't really know if I would like law or not. And French seemed like a good backup if the law didn't work out. But once I started the degree, I really, really loved it. And I knew that if I was going forward with a career in law, that I wanted it to be an area of law that had a strong human element to it. So probate, conveyancing, company law, they didn't really appeal to me. So it was in my final year of law that I got an opportunity to study medical law, child and family law, and they were subjects that really interested me. And I went on to complete a master's in child and family law, but there was a strong emphasis on medical law and reproductive law research throughout it. And at the same time, I was working in a medical negligence practice while doing my FE1s. So looking back now, I feel like I kind of fell into law, but I can't imagine doing anything else. I'll start with the good. The proudest moment is, I suppose it's It's grown a lot quicker than I thought it would. So I'm really proud that clients are placing their trust in me as what is a very new, small practice. And I had a very clear vision for the service I wanted to provide and the type of firm I would have. I wanted people to get specialist advice, but I also wanted them to feel supported throughout that. So when a client compliments the service and is happy with the service they're getting, seeing that vision become a reality is something I'm really, really proud of. And I recently received an award from the Irish Law Awards for excellence in communications. So to get that award for something that's quite specific to the approach that I want to provide with my firm was something that I'm really, really proud of. And it was a pinch me moment for sure. And then the hardest part is probably the business and accounting side of things. So I've trained for a long time to become a solicitor. You feel like you know your area of law quite well. But when you open your own practice, there's then an element of you're actually running a business and you have to understand that whole side of things. So I feel like every day is a learning day for me in that respect. So I find that quite hard, but I'm slowly getting to grips with that. Yeah, definitely. There's actually probably two, and they stand out for very different reasons. So I had one case that was quite a small case in that the compensation we were seeking was a modest amount and the injury had already resolved. So it wasn't a life-changing injury. It wasn't one that was going to attract a huge amount of compensation. So we went into it thinking that ultimately it would probably settle before trial. And it actually didn't. It ran for 3 weeks. And in the end, we got judgment in favour for our client. And I think just of all the cases I had that year, it was the last one I expected to go to trial and be heard before a judge in its entirety. So it really taught me the importance of being meticulously prepared for every case, that every case needs to be prepared as if you are going to end up in front of the judge because you just don't know what's going to happen. And then the other was, for different reasons, was a young boy who suffered a brain injury at birth. And at the time of settling his case, it was a record settlement of 30 million. And that is a huge sum of money, but when it was broken down, it really was to provide for his lifelong care and support to ensure that he would be taken care of as well as possible for the rest of his life and to ensure that he would reach his maximum potential in terms of the physiotherapy he was getting and the occupational therapy, etc. So what stayed with me about that case was the relationship I built with the family. Because it was such a big case, it went on for years. We got to know each other really well. I got to really understand what that money would mean for them as a family and knowing that the outcome would make a real difference to his life. So I suppose the one that went to trial for 3 weeks shaped me as a litigator and knowing that I need to have every case prepared inside out. And the other reminded me why I do the work in the first place. I think probably what I touched on earlier, that every medical mistake or bad outcome automatically gives rise to a claim. Medicine is really complex and bad outcomes happen all the time, even where appropriate care is provided by the healthcare professionals involved. And that equally there can be a situation where a mistake has been made, but thankfully an injury doesn't occur. So I think the vast majority of time when people get on to me about inquiries, they fall into one of those two brackets where a case isn't possible. The legal test is very specific and there's a very high threshold to meet to bring a claim. And I think people probably aren't aware of that. It's probably the most important part of establishing the relationship with that client. And I feel no matter what, you have to meet that person where they are at emotionally. So I find people come to me at two different stages of the aftermath of an injury. They can either get on immediately, and it can be immediately after they've suffered an injury, a family member has suffered an injury, or they've lost a loved one. And in those circumstances, the emotions are still very, very raw. And then on the flip side, you have people who wait a couple of months or even years because they may have suffered an injury and they need to have medical treatment to put them back in the position they were prior to that injury or as close as possible. And regardless of what period of time has passed, I think when a client is getting onto a solicitor, it's very daunting. It's not something they want to be in a position to have to do. And with medical negligence cases, they're often talking about one, if not the hardest moment of their life, and the details can be very personal and of a sensitive nature. So I try and make it very clear at the start of those conversations that I'm there to help them and meet them where they're at, and that we go at their pace with the conversation, and if they need breaks, that's absolutely fine. So I suppose my main job is to listen and let them tell their story, and I'll then ask any questions I have about the timeline of events that they've given, the treatment that they've received, and the impact it's had on them to date. And from there, I kind of explain what the medical negligence process is like in general, and then I apply those legal principles to the facts of the case that they've described. And overall, I just want anyone who I've had an initial conversation with to leave that first consultation feeling like they've been informed and supported, regardless of whether they ultimately have a claim or we're going ahead with the case or not. It's a very deliberate decision. I never want my clients to feel like they're just a number, that I have hundreds of cases and that they can't get through to me because of that, or that, they're bothering me by sending emails or calls. When someone comes to me after a serious injury or the loss of a loved one, they deserve the time and attention and access to their solicitor when they need it. And I think it's hugely important for them to feel that they have a main point of contact. So when I set up the firm, I really wanted to provide expert legal advice, but also a personal service for the clients. And to do that, I have to be realistic about the number of cases I take on, because it's only me who works in the practice. So I don't have anyone to funnel calls or emails or anything like that. So by keeping my caseload manageable, I know every case in great detail. I'm available to my clients when they need it throughout the case. And I think that continuity of service and personal relationship makes a real difference to the client experience. They know who's handling their case, they know who they can call if they have a question, and they don't have to repeat their story to multiple people when they pick up the phone. So for me, that's just incredibly important, and it's at the core of why I set up the firm the way I did. I completely understand people being nervous. I feel most people are nervous when they make that first step. They're contacting essentially a stranger that they have found online, or someone they've heard through a solicitor or a friend, and they're ringing to talk about something very personal, and it really is often, if not all of the time, one of the hardest experiences of their life that they've just encountered, and they're now ringing a person to speak about that. So that can be incredibly daunting, and just generally I feel most people don't want to have to be in a position to contact a solicitor unless they're ringing, to purchase a house or sell a house or write a will. So what I would say to anyone in thinking about doing it is that an inquiry doesn't commit you to anything. It's really just an opportunity to have a conversation, ask any questions you have, and understand what your options are, whether there's grounds for a case or for a further investigation. And people ringing me, it's because they have a lot of questions and they don't actually have a lot of answers. They've left a hospital setting or a medical professional setting feeling let down, feeling confused as to why things happened the way they did. And they just have a feeling that something isn't right, but they don't know whether that amounts to negligence or what options they have. So my job is to listen, explain the position honestly, and help them understand their options. So even if a person decides ultimately not to pursue a claim or go further with it, I just want them to leave that conversation feeling heard, informed, and reassured that they've taken the right step in seeking advice. They're very valid concerns, and it's something I hear every day. People worried about the cost, how long it's going to take, and whether they have to go to trial. They're the top three questions I'd say I get most days. So I put a big emphasis on explaining the process clearly from the very beginning so people know what to expect. We discussed the issues such as cost, time frame for bringing a case from the beginning to the end, and what the different stages of that case will look like. And I think it's mainly uncertainty is what causes that anxiety about those issues. So I explained from the very beginning what the circumstances are in relation to cost, time frame, and proceeding to trial. And I keep people updated as we progress through the case. And provide information on all three of those areas as we continue on. So I think a lot of people imagine bringing a claim automatically means you're going to end up in a courtroom, which isn't the case. It's often not the reality. A lot of cases settle outside of court. So yeah, I think just keeping people updated at every stage so they're fully informed and understand what's happening and what comes next. And I think once clients understand the process and they have that information available to them, a lot of their anxieties or worries tend to ease. So they don't need to worry about having all of the information or all of the answers before they make that referral. So that's what my job with the initial consultation, whether that's in person or on the phone, is for. So I think it's helpful if they can get some basic information from the client, like what happened, when it happened, and in like it doesn't have to be very long, what aspect of their medical care or treatment they're not happy with or that they have a concern about. And from there, I can assess whether there are potential grounds for a claim and guide the client through those next steps. So they don't have to worry about doing a lot or getting a lot of information. If I even just get a couple of lines about what's occurred, I'm able to take it from there. I've really loved it from the very beginning, and I would sing its praises to anyone. So I like working on my own, and I deliberately set up the practice that way so I could give the model of client service the way I want to. But it can be lonely at times, or it can feel like it's isolating at times, whereas joining Solicitors Growth has connected me with other solicitors who are very welcoming and approachable, and many who are also working on their own or in a very small practice. So it's given me a sense of community in what would otherwise be a very lonely profession, just the way I've chosen it, and that I don't work with anyone. And it's been a great source of learning and ideas. So I attend all of the CPD webinars that they hold, so the ones about AI, tips for running a practice, and broader business support have been excellent. I've even put in place some of the AI recommendations that we've heard through the CPD webinars, and I really enjoy the in-person events. They're not just informative, but they're a great way to meet people. So there's a lot of people who are at a similar stage to me that they've recently opened their own practice. So it's great to hear from them what their highs and lows have been and what tips they have. And then there's others who've been in established firms for years, where they're able to share their experience and advice. So overall, it's just been an amazing source of information and community, and I hope to be a member for a long, long time. Spending time with friends and family is probably the biggest thing for me. So I have a 2-year-old daughter, her name is Eve, and she's full of energy, so she keeps me busy. And I find just being a mom and attending to her needs probably helps me switch off the most. When I'm with her, I try and be fully present and forget about the working day as much as possible. I have a work phone and I have a personal phone, and I try and put the work phone away. And spending time with my husband, so he's not a solicitor and he's really good at switching off. He's probably one of the most relaxed people I know. So I try and take a leaf out of his book. And then meeting friends for coffee, dinner. I love to read, so I'm part of 2 book clubs and we meet once a month. So that's been a great outlet as well. I suppose the perception that solicitors are good with words, and we are supposed to be, and I like to think I am for the most part, but I'm really terrible at getting common sayings right. And my husband has to regularly correct me when I confidently come out with a statement like kill one bird with 2 stones. So I try and avoid all of those phrases because I will inevitably get it wrong. There's 2 I like, and they probably work for work and they work for normal personal life as well. One of my favorite pieces of advice is not my circus, not my monkeys. I can be a bit of a worrier, so it's a phrase that keeps me grounded and reminds me to focus on things I can actually control. And another favorite is those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. It's a good reminder not to spend too much time worrying about what other people think. And given that I've just admitted to being terrible at common sayings, I'm quite proud that I got those correct, or I think I did. My goal is to continue building it as a leading specialist law firm for medical negligence while maintaining the personal service that the firm was grounded on. So I don't want it to get so big that I can't provide the service that I've promised and the service that I want to provide. So growth is important, but I don't want to lose the client focused approach that makes the practice different. So I just want, I suppose, for the firm to be well known for what I do, and that and that I do it well, but I want to keep it manageable. I want the caseload to remain more or less at the same level so I can provide the service that I'm most proud of. If someone chooses to work with me, that they'll receive specialist advice, honest guidance, and personal support throughout the process. That's the approach I've built Croke Medical Law around, and it's the approach I continue to bring to every client who places their trust in me.